in the middle of a heat wave when everyone's running their AC and there's already a strain on the electric grid. Now everyone's running 25 to 50 refrigerators in their home as well. There's no more electricity. There's no conversation to be had here about whether or not this is cheaper. And yeah, okay, sure. I suppose they can drive up the cost of gasoline enough that right now, with the amount of electric cars we have, it might be cheaper to have an electric car than to be filling up your car at the pump every day. But if you're talking about if everyone had an electric car, then there is no more electricity. Like, it's not, there's no more conversation to be had about even what the cost is. The answer is there simply isn't enough to provide for everyone. That's the reality of the situation, whether you like it or not. This isn't like, again, this isn't like I feel this way about left wing or right wing, or this is just factually what the situation is. We do not have the infrastructure for it. There's no plan of how this could possibly work. People are just talking out of their fucking asses when they go, oh, we'll have no carbon emissions by the year 2050. I mean, that sounds far off enough, right? So how about 2050? No carbon emissions. Why did they pick 2050 instead of 2060 or 2080? Just because it sounded nice. It sounds like far off enough that you won't really grill me on how we're going to get there, and not so far off that you're like, oh, that's not really doing anything. You know what I mean? This is all just fucking magic talk.
There's another variable that nobody mentions, and I haven't fully researched this because thematically, I just know if we leave things to the free market, we're going to have better competition. And if we come to the point where the technology is good enough, right, then we'll make the natural transition.
Sure.
And if we continue to consume electricity, guess what? The scarcity of oil will actually force us to make this transition. So we just don't need government's involvement, and I'm more afraid of government's involvement. But the whole storyline about that, this is better for the environment, I question that being true, as combustible engines have been around for a really long time. If we continue to use them, I mean, we might get to a point where we could get 100 miles to the gallon. Whereas as we move over to these electric vehicles, what's the shelf life of them? Your cars are lasting 15, 20 years. Your electric cars at best are 10 years. So what's the recycling cost on that? Yep. Then you also have additional coal being processed in China in order to create like these solar panels. So I'm just saying, like, and then you have the investment now that you have to convert the energy infrastructure and throw out other shit to make the transition. I'm just venturing to guess if you actually did the math on this, it's not better for the environment.
Well, that's the other thing, is that it's not like when you're talking about these electric cars, like, okay, they don't use gasoline, but then they're plugging into the power grid, which is often like coal and other natural gas and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, you're not getting away from this. It's still right. It's still, and it doesn't seem like, and again, I'll be the first to admit this is like above my pay grade, and I'm not enough of an expert in this to know the answer, but no one seems to be really like laying out the fucking math on this and explaining why this is actually better. That it just sounds nicer to say green energy.